Welcome to the Raising Black Boy Joy podcast. I am Charlita Hatch, and I am your presenter for today. So today we are in an interesting topic where we are going to discuss what it will take for Black parents to trust elementary educators of elementary age Black boys. And our question here today is, will diverse books and classroom materials do that? Will that increase the trust of Black parents of educators of elementary age Black boys? So let's get into it. So why would we even talk about this? And do we really think that books are that powerful that they could change the way Black parents trust educators of elementary age Black boys? And so this research is it's going to take an innovative approach to looking at it and providing different strategies and solutions of how do we do that. We want to understand if that will do it. If books are as powerful as we've always been told that they are, we know that books expose us to different opportunities, different access, different people, takes us places we never go. So can it solve a trust issue? Let's continue to explore more. So I talked to 52 different participants, and these participants were all parents of elementary age Black boys. And it was so fascinating being able to talk to Black parents of Black sons. And one thing to notice, they were all middle class parents and above. And so I think that's important to note because many of the research that exists as it talks to Black boys and how educators can relate to them come from a socioeconomic disadvantage point. And so this research wants to provide a different lens to that. So we had about 38 different parents respond to our 10-question mixed method survey. We had about 2 participants that we had one-on-one formal interviews with. One was a principal and one was an educator both in elementary school settings. And it was important that we spoke to them because they were also Black parents of Black sons. And so really wanted to get a view of how their parenting changed as it relates to them being in the education system, but also how they educated and led their schools, knowing that they were parents of Black sons and how that influenced them in both ways. And then lastly, we had 12 participants in our focus groups, and we had 3 different focus groups. We kept them small intentionally to really explore and talk to Black parents across different sectors to be able to understand what it would take for them to have more trust in their son's elementary age classroom setting. So we highlighted this a little bit at the beginning, but that's ground here on this slide. So we see that 10% of children's books feature people of color, feature African Americans. And so at the time of this study in 2018, about 4.5% feature Black boys as the leading protagonists. You go all the way further to the right, you'll see 50% of children's books feature white boys as the leading protagonists. And you can see here, look at the mirrors being intentionally, they can see themselves in a variety of different ways. I could be a king, I could be an astronaut, and it's positive images. As you start to go to the diverse children, you'll see that they are seeing themselves in stereotypical small ways. So not at all in a viewpoint that allows them to dream or explore or to see that amongst each other. A little bit further into the research is we'll see that evidence suggests that, if an educator doesn't even understand or have limited viewpoints on diversity, that can contribute to how they set up their classroom. And so that really was an informative point of research to make us think that, I wonder if parents subconsciously know and understand that, particularly as Black parents. And if they saw a teacher being intentional about how they source their room, would that increase their trust? The other thing to note is that if educators use culturally relevant pedagogy through literature, then that will also help center student voices and engage them differently with diverse literature and have the teacher explore different meanings and viewpoints and ideas in the classroom that might be different experiences from their own, but allows them to take in the voices of their students. So those 2 pieces, along with the data about representation and the lack of children's books that feature diverse children really help to ground us in what could take an innovative approach to really building that bridge with parents and teachers. So as we got into the discussion, a reoccurring theme seemed to emerge. So whereas I use the word trust, Black parents use the word safe. And so I often started to begin to probe on what do you mean when you say safe? And it was three different themes from that emerged. One around protecting the joy and innocence of what it means to be a Black boy in elementary school. So really wanted Black parents of middle class Black parents wanted their sons to remain boys. They did not want them to be seen as the man of the house, older than they were, so adultification. They did not want them to have to be exposed to things that really wasn't age appropriate. They did not want them to be over disciplined. So Black parents are aware of the school to prison pipeline and the parallels there, where a Black boy in elementary school could do the same thing as a white boy in elementary school, and their discipline looked different, no different than what we see with the prison and sentencing there. And then age appropriate expectations. So if your child is 5, 6, or 7, they did not want their child in parallel to be treated like they were 7, 8, and 9. And so because of potential physical attributes, would a teacher have higher expectation, even if they knew that they were teaching a first grader because of the way the physical attributes of the child. And so that was very interesting in how then that could translate to images that your child is exposed to. We started to reflect on what types of books do you see Black boys featured in? How does that shape not only the student's mind, but the children's mind as well? And so that's when parents started to think about the books that they saw very frequently were civil rights and sports related as it relates to Black boys. Very few books had them, like The Snowy Day by Ezra Keaton, where it truly is an innocent book that is colorless, but happens to feature a Black boy. So the increase of diverse books and classroom materials shows the consciousness of the teachers, really their grounding on their culturally relevant pedagogy. But that alone does not provide trust that Black sons are safe in their care. And so safety would look like an increase of Black male educators in primary teaching roles. And we'll explore that in a little bit. The limitations, so remember we talked about the study including Black middle class parents intentionally, but that is a voice that is not here is the socioeconomic disadvantaged parents and whether or not there is similarities in what would be needed to increase trust. Also, there was a lack of Black male educators. So there was not one Black male educator that has been included in this study. That voice would have been needed and enhance the study. And also a Black male educator that is also a parent of a Black son would have been phenomenal for the study. So how do we increase the trust? And so trust looks like an increase in Black male educators. So parents really started to deep dive into the fact that Black males are not viewed as nurturers. And so that they haven't experienced Black male educators at grade level teaching roles. They've experienced them as school resource officers, as the PE teacher, and as even a disciplinarian. They've also seen them in middle and high school more. They may have a teaching role like history, but they also might serve as the coach. And so really looking for in elementary school, what does it look like to have a Black male educator on the grade level team, even if your son isn't in the classroom, knowing that that voice would be in the room during classroom meetings and when students are being talked about. There was also a need to just provide experiential learning opportunities, acknowledgement that boys learn differently. Black boys have a different experiences as well. And so how do you take that and move beyond the classroom walls? How do you get more movement? How do you provide more field trips? How do you make learning fun? If you're learning about dinosaurs, going to a dinosaur museum, having a dinosaur themed lunch, reading dinosaur books, and really just engaging them into the curriculum. There was also a recommendation for an increase in improvement among parent-teacher conversations. Black middle class parents, particularly of Black sons, are really asking their kids detailed class questions about what is happening in the classroom, how is the teacher treating them, how are their friends teaching them, treating them? What do their friends look like? And they are hearing information from their child before they hear it from their teacher. And so there was a lack of trust, meaning that the parent felt like they always had to react based off what their child was telling them versus having a partnership with the teacher and being able to respond and be prepared to address their student when they got home. And then, of course, just there would be an inherent trust if they saw that there were diverse books and classrooms and materials in that teacher's classrooms. But that alone would not increase their trust in totality. So the innovation that we're recommending here is that, Black parents are doing a lot of heavy lifting. The Black parents that we talk to do not have their students at their neighborhood school. They're in private school, charter schools, or magnet schools where they have an opportunity to influence and shape their Black son's learning journey. And a lot of them are doing the same things. And so there was a need to say, how do we consolidate resources and efforts to be able to say, hey, here's a kindergarten, here's 10 books and 10 lesson plans and 10 activities that's been vetted by Black parents that teachers could then go and pull from and use inside of the classroom walls. And so instead of parents having to create this individually, they could say, hey, Miss such and such, if you're looking for this type of lesson, why don't you go to this website and download the materials here? Also, parents are planning a lot of the same events. They are working on the parent-teacher organization or association, planning Black history, planning different diversity initiatives. And so there's a need for parents to be able to access this and say, well, here's a toolkit that we can use to put on the Black History Month program, or here's a toolkit that we could use where we can do something for Kwanzaa, and it not be something that each parent is having to do across these different schools and across these different grade levels. There's something that they could leverage. So this has been a phenomenal opportunity and research for me as a parent of a Black son. I am looking forward to taking this innovation and making it reality, not only with the parents and the participants, but parents more broadly. So thank you for joining our Raising Black Boy Joy podcast. I hope you enjoyed our impact analysis and look forward to continuing to grow on the journey.